Okay, I just want to do a short video about aspects. This is a thing that uh, hangs people up a lot. It seems to be the last part of astrology that people can get a handle on. So I'm going to go over just the major aspects. We're not going to work with the minor aspects. If we can learn the major aspects, we'll be doing good. So um, the aspects, the conjunction, of course, is when two planets are next to each other, very close, within whatever orb you're using. We usually use 8 degrees. Sometimes we use 10, even with the sun. People use 15 sometimes. So um, again, the ideal is it's 0 degrees. The opposition, which of course is halfway across the horoscope, the wheel has 360 degrees in it. If you can remember from your geometry, a circle has 360 degrees. So when two planets are opposite each other, they're 180 degrees apart. They're halfway across. If they're square each other, they're 90 degrees. That's what we used to call a right angle in geometry. If they're trine, they're 120 degrees. If they're a sextile, they're half of that, which is 60 degrees. Now, these are the steps generally to find the angles or the aspects. Is first of all, you look for planets with similar degrees. In other words, if you have a planet that's 10 degrees, and look around the chart and see if you've got something 10, 12, 14 degrees, or even going the other way, 8, 6. And again, depending on the orb is the amount of slack or the number of degrees that you feel are adequate during which the aspect works, because they don't just work as they hit the exact degree. They will start working earlier than that. Again, can be 4 or 5 degrees, sometimes 8 degrees, you start to feel them. And then after the aspect ends, it can be another 5, 6, 7 degrees before you start to feel that the aspect is no longer working. So if you find planets with similar degrees, then you check the signs, the zodiac signs, to see if it's a major angle. And I'm going to give you some cheat sheets to use to check on what aspects the different signs make. That's number one. Number two is what's called the out of sign aspect, and that's when a planet will be in the late degrees of one sign, and then you'll have another planet in the early degrees of another sign. And they actually will make an aspect with each other, and I'm going to show you some examples. And I've said here with a little smiley face, you may have to do some arithmetic. It's very simple, just subtracting, essentially, adding and subtracting. Okay, we're going to look at conjunctions first. Again, this is when the degrees are close together and the planets are in the same sign. Or the out of sign would be when they are in different signs, but one planet is in the late degrees of its sign, and the second planet is in the early degrees of its sign. Now, let me show you an example. This is our new vice president. And if we're looking to see if there are planets close together, remember we're working with conjunctions here. We look around the chart and look at that. There we go. Here are 3 planets very close together degree-wise, and they're all in the same sign. So this would be a very good conjunction. They're all 3 conjunct to each other. This is also a good aspect to talk about the idea of applying and separating. Now, at the moment Kamala Harris was born, these were the positions of the planets. And but the planets keep on moving. Our birth does not stop them from moving, so they do continue to move. What you want to do is, if an aspect is applying, that is, if it's moving into the exact aspect, it hasn't hit it yet, it's just moving toward it. An applying aspect is considered to be stronger than an aspect that has already happened and is leaving, is separating. Now, you have to know how fast the planets move in order to work with applying and separating. Well, actually, you don't have to know how fast they're moving. You just have to know which ones are faster than the other. And generally, it has to do with their position in the solar system. The farthest out planet, which is Pluto, moves the slowest. The next planet in from that, which is Neptune, moves the next slowest, and so on and so forth, until you get to the fastest planet, which is Mercury. So in this particular conjunction, we have two of the outer planets, Pluto and Uranus, which move very slowly. And then we have one of the inner planets, Venus, which moves much faster. So if you look at this, you can see Venus has already made the conjunction with these two planets, and it is now separating. It is moving away. Let me see if I can do something with that. In other words, Venus is headed in this direction. It's already made the conjunction. Now, if Venus were right here, I have trouble with these pens, but let's say Venus was 10 degrees Virgo. That is a 10 by definition. If Venus were 10 degrees Virgo, it would be applying to this conjunction, which would make it stronger. But because Venus is here at 17, it has already made the conjunction, so it is separating. It is moving. Remember, the planets move counterclockwise. So that's a good example of applying and separating, and that's a good example of a conjunction. It happens to have 3 planets instead of 2. Now, if we think about the second possibility of conjunctions, where one planet is in the later degrees of a sign and another planet's in the earlier degrees, we take a look, and sure enough, look at this. She has one of those. Her sun is 27 degrees Libra, and her Mercury is 1 degree Scorpio. Now, the 23 degrees Libra, you just think you're 27. If you're 27 degrees Libra, you go 27, 28, 29, 30, which is 0 degrees of the next sign, which is Scorpio. So the sun is 3 degrees from hitting Scorpio, and she has a planet at 1 degree Scorpio. So these planets are conjunct to each other. There's a 4-degree orb. Actually, this aspect here is a 4-degree orb also. Here's where you can subtract 13 from 17, and what do you come up with? 4. Don't worry about the minutes of a degree. Just work with the degrees. So this conjunction has a 4-degree orb to it. This conjunction, and that's just by accident, has a 4-degree orb. So there are not any more conjunctions that I see in this chart. So that is the conjunction. Let me see if I can get back to my pointer. Arrow. Okay, let's look at the opposition. Now here is your first cheat sheet. The oppositions are made up of the cardinal, fixed, and mutable categories. Those are the qualities, or sometimes they're called modes. And we know that these are the 4 cardinal signs, and Aries and Libra oppose each other, Capricorn and Cancer oppose each other. In the fixed, we have Taurus and Scorpio, Aquarius and Leo. If you're looking at a chart wheel, these signs should be on opposite sides of the wheel, always. The mutable, Gemini, Sagittarius, Pisces, Virgo. So you can have that in front of you. If you're looking for oppositions and you're not sure about the signs, you can look and see if you have planets falling in those signs. This is Bridget Bardot. I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember her. She was an actress, I guess. Now we're looking for opposition, so we're going to be looking for planets that are kind of opposite each other, obviously, on the wheel. So we've got 3 planets as possibilities here. Let's look at Saturn first. Saturn is 22 degrees Aquarius, and if you go back, let me see if I don't mess this up. Well, there we go. Aquarius, here's Aquarius, and so the opposite sign of Aquarius is Leo. So this is Saturn at 22 Aquarius, and right across from it we have a planet in Leo, Mars at 18 Leo. So now do your subtraction, 22 minus 18. We seem to be kind of caught on the number 4 here for an orb right now. So that's a 4-degree orb. So that's a perfectly good opposition. If you look at the moon, there's really not any planet opposite the moon, so we can just forget about that. Let's look at Uranus. Uranus is 0 degrees Taurus. Now, we don't have anything across from 0 degrees Taurus that's in Scorpio, which is what is the opposition that's on the cheat sheet. But we do have 2 planets at 27 degrees Libra. And again, if you count forward 27, 28, 29, 30, or 0, that would be 0 degrees Scorpio. And Scorpio is what we're looking for an opposition. So these are what we call an out-of-sign opposition. Because if they move 3 degrees, they are in Scorpio. So that's a 3-degree orb because this is 0 Taurus. So that's a perfectly good opposition, an out-of-sign opposition. Okay, these are the squares. They look a little bit like the oppositions. If you notice, they're actually opposite. But here you have to look at the 90-degree angles. Aries is square to Cancer. Let me get a marker here where we can do a little more. So we've got a square right here. That's 90 degrees. That's your old right angle from geometry. And then you have another square, Cancer to Libra. And then you have a square, Libra to Capricorn. And then you have a square, Capricorn to Aries. So those are the squares. Those are the cardinal squares. Here are the fixed squares, and you do the same thing. And here are the mutable squares. Gemini square to Virgo, Virgo square to Sagittarius, etc., etc. Okay, that won't take me. Huh, interesting, I didn't know that. You have to be on the arrow. Okay. Now we're looking at squares. This is Julie Andrews. This is another actress and obviously a singer. So let's look around. Pisces squares Virgo, Pisces squares Sagittarius. Okay. Now let's look at that one. That's Saturn and Mars, and Pisces and Sagittarius square each other. So let's see if the degrees are going to work out with our orb. So here you've got 4 degrees, here you've got 10. So you subtract 10 minus 4 is what? 6. So if you're using an 8-degree orb, that's a perfectly good square right there. So they would make a right angle. Now you can't tell it from my drawing, but that would be a 90-degree angle right there. Now, interestingly enough, Sagittarius also squares Virgo. So we've got the possibility of another square here. And in fact, this one is closer. Venus is 6 Virgo, and you got a 10. If you subtract, that's 4 degrees. So that's a 4-degree orb. So that's a very good square. And, you know, this is a square also. Neptune is 15 Virgo. You subtract 10, you've got 5. So these are all the appropriate signs, and we're just checking to make sure that the degrees fit within our orb. Now let's see, have we got any other squares? Now we've got a planet here at 27 Cancer, which is one of those latter degrees. So let's see, if we take this to the next sign, it's going to be 0 degrees Leo. So look at that. Yes, sir. So she's got Pluto square Mercury, because this would be 3 degrees from 0 degrees Leo, and Leo squares Virgo. If you look on your cheat sheet, you can see that. So that's 3 degrees to 0 Leo, and then 1 more degree would give us a 4-degree orb. So that is an out of sign square. Now let's see if there are any others. I don't see any others. The Taurus and Virgo trine each other. That is more a quincunx. So those are the squares. That's the way you would find a square. The same, not same sign, but appropriate signs, if you will. The signs that normally square each other. In this case, we've got Pisces, Sagittarius, and Virgo. And then you look for the out of sign possibilities of squares. All right, now we come to the trines. These are the elements. Fire, the fire signs all trine each other. Air trines, water trines, earth trines. So let's see what we can find. Now this is a chart for Alan Alda, who is another actor. We're looking for trines now. And of course, these would be in the same elements. And here's a fire and a fire, but now if you subtract there, that's 17 minus 3. That gives us too wide an orb for a trine. A lot of astrologers even use a less orb for the trine than they do for the square. So you can keep that in mind. I just use 8 for all of them, just for simplicity's sake. Let's see. Okay, here's some squares. Aquarius squares Taurus. We're looking for trines. You know, I don't see any trines in the same, not in the same sign, but in appropriate signs, except with this north node. We've got a trine here with Neptune. It's not with a planet, but it is a trine with a north node, Capricorn and Virgo. And if you subtract the degrees, you've got 12 from 16, which is 4. So that gives you a 4-degree orb there, which is a very good trine. You know, there's also another out of sign trine right here. Venus is 29 Sagittarius, which is only 1 degree from Capricorn. And Capricorn trines Taurus at 1 degree. So you've got another trine right here between Venus and Uranus. And that's an out of sign trine. And I think those, I'm looking at, I think those are the only trines I'm seeing right at the moment. So you've got not an in sign, but an appropriate sign, Earth to Earth here. And then you have an out of sign, which is Capricorn to Taurus. And then we come to the sextiles. And the sextiles are made up of the fire and air. Those planets, those signs are sextile to each other. Aries, Gemini, Leo, Libra, Sagittarius, Aquarius. And then earth and water are sextile. That means they're 60 degrees away from each other. So you start with Taurus, Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, Pisces. So those are the sextiles. Now, you look at Bill Clinton's chart and you can immediately see that it's got to have some sextiles because here are the planets. All he has essentially, except for one planet in Earth, are fire and air. So he's got air, fire, air. So if we start with the Gemini 21, it would have to be sextile to one of these Leos, and the closest thing would be the sun. It's 5-degree orb, which I usually use a 4 for sextiles, but since it's the sun, you could probably allow that as a sextile, a good sextile. So that would be one sextile right here. And if you measured this, if this were to scale, this would be 60 degrees. It would be a 60-degree angle measured from one length to the next. That would be 60 degrees. That's a sextile. Now we essentially have a grouping here of sextiles that you could almost just group together. These three planets at 6, 6, and 11, and these three planets at 2, 7, and 11. So certainly 2 from 6 leaves 4, so that's a perfectly good sextile. Obviously the 6 and 7 is just a 1-degree orb, so that's a good sextile, and then the 11s, of course, are on the money there. So he has a number of sextiles in his chart. Let me get back to my arrow. I threw Edgar Casey's in. His is very similar to Bill Clinton's, except he has earth and water in his. So you can see, let's see, the 2 is not going to be sextile to the 11, but here Mars is 11 Capricorn, and we've got Mercury at 11, Saturn at 12, Venus at 15. So this Mars is a very good sextile to these 3 planets. And then we also have the moon at 12, Taurus. So the moon is a sextile from the other direction because you got Taurus, Pisces. So the moon is sextile to these 3 planets as well. If you wanted to count this, that's almost 23, 22 degrees and 56 minutes. You could say this is sextile, that's Pluto, sextile to the sun. I think those are the only sextiles. I put in the Grand Cross just to kind of show you what a Grand Cross looks like in case you don't know or haven't seen one. This is when you have an opposition, and this is an opposition, 21 to 28, Leo to Aquarius. And then we have another opposition, 24 to 16. These are all in the fixed signs, Scorpio, Aquarius, Taurus, and Leo. And that's a perfectly good cross pattern in the chart. This Neptune is square. That's a square, a right angle, or a 90 degrees to Mars. Mars is square to Jupiter. Jupiter is square to Saturn. So, so she has a grand cross in her chart. And then this is a grand trine. This is Fred Astaire, and his grand trine is in fire. So he has Sagittarius to Leo to Aries. So that's, and fire is, gives people excitement, energy, enthusiasm. They're risk-taking. They're always on the move, and I think you could probably say that about Fred Astaire. He was, every time I saw him, he was on the move. Of course, that was just in the movies. So those are the aspects, and I'm going to put the cheat sheets into the e-group, and you can download them and have them available when you're working with your chart or somebody else's chart. So good luck.